everyone, welcome to this Icehouse Podcast. I'm Bryar Stewart, the Community Manager, and today I'm chatting with Hamish White. He is the founder, director and CEO of Now Telecommunications and was on our Owner Manager Programme 29, which we were just chatting before, was in 2013. He's based in Hawke Bay and really looking forward to the conversation and chatting to Hamish, who was on the programme all those years ago. So welcome, Hamish. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Bryar.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to start with some quick fire, just helps with warming things up a bit. So first question is, what did you want to be when you grew up?
It's actually pretty bloody boring, to be quite honest. I've always wanted to be in a business of sorts. Always had an interest in like architecture, marketing, and that sort of the creative side of things. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's good. I'm looking forward to hearing how that been developed. Book or podcast that you recommend?
So probably the most recent book, which I'm 2/3 of the way through, is 4,000 Weekends. And it's this book written by Oliver Berkman, and it's pretty much about we're all on this planet for, on average, about 4,000 weekends, and how do we, I guess, make the most of this ridiculously short amount of time. So yeah. Podcast. I've actually just finished listening to The Teacher's Pet, which is I guess the real live crime investigation that took place in Sydney. So yeah.
Cool, I like it. Coffee order. I see you've got one there.
Drink far too many of these. Americano. Yeah.
Nice, good coffee order. When are you most productive, Hamish?
When I've got a coffee in my hand and walking. Yeah. I'm actually much more productive when I'm not in the office.
Nice, I like that. When are you most relaxed?
I would say at my batch, got a quintessential Kiwi batch up the coast, a place called Waipariki Beach, and with family, that's probably when I'm most relaxed, yeah.
Awesome. Favourite place in the world?
Oh, it'd have to be Waipariki Beach, which is where I got the batch here. So it's a lovely little golden sand beach with virgin native bush, and that's my happy place.
Very cool. And first ever job?
First ever job. This is in my last year at high school. I was a sewing machinist for a windsurfing sail manufacturer.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that answer. Normally it's milk runs or newspaper drops, but yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah. So that and a pizza delivery boy. So yeah.
That's awesome. Diving a little bit deeper now, I'd love to hear. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Hamish. Who is Hamish? What are your passions and what does life like? I'm just I see myself as a typical sort of guy from the provinces, very proud, I guess, of where I come from. Very, I guess, for me it's all about Hawke's Bay. And probably a guy that just enjoys the simple things in life, to be quite honest. Yeah, I love my water sports, love spending time with family and friends. Yeah. That's very cool. I like that answer. And what has your career journey looked like, and then how did that lead to now?
Yeah, so I went down to Victoria University and did a commerce degree. And look, to be quite honest, in the early 90s, having a nondescript qualification like that, coming back to Hawke's Bay, there was nothing really to do but pick fruit. And so I ended up working in banking, actually, ANZ Bank in Wellington, and got involved in the early days of transactional banking. So I'm talking about ATMs and FPOS and credit cards and things like that. And I guess it was my involvement in the I guess, proliferation of credit card reward programs in the late 90s that kind of segued into a change in industry and went into telecommunications. And so I joined Telecom and actually got involved in the early days of prepaid mobile and ended up having a career, I guess, on both sides of the Tasman and Wellington and Auckland in telecommunications, consumer, business, fixed line mobile, things like that. Yeah.
Cool. And is that how it led? Look, when was the moment of going, okay, I want to start my own thing now in this industry that I'm really enjoying?
That I enjoyed, and so I was on this quest to live in Hawke's Bay that I pretty much chucked in my corporate career and set up a marketing and design agency in Hawke's Bay, and it actually ended up being quite successful. Most of the work and my clients were in Auckland and Christchurch, interestingly enough. And what happened was I had customers that were in the telecommunications industry, challengers, and I found that I was enjoying working more on their businesses than my own. And then there was all these regulatory changes going on in the industry with telecommunications and the structural separation of telecom back in the day and things like that. And I thought, I want to get back into this sector. And so I sold my agency, and it was actually on the back of that I'd always held this deep belief that as an industry, Kiwis had been deprived of good service, and there was a massive opportunity to not be the biggest, but just but be the best, and build a telecommunications company that I guess lived and breathed service. Put the S back in ISP in terms of service, yeah. And so that was kind of the aha moment. And there was a very small wireless ISP in Hawke's Bay that I amounted what I guess constituted a takeover of. And then that was, I guess, the genesis of what sat behind now and the engine. So pretty much dismantled that and reassembled it, and in April 2012, so a little over 10 years ago now, launched Now.
Very cool. So what does Now exactly offer? What are the offerings?
Well, I think one thing that's really I guess quite neat about Now is that we've always held true to that belief that Kiwi homes and businesses deserve more. And so service is at the heart of our DNA. But just think of a Spark or a Vodafone. We're a fully fledged telecommunications company. We have our own nationwide voice and data network. And so essentially we offer broadband to homes and businesses. But we're a little bit more than that. We take huge pride in the delivery and the service and support of everything that the internet enables, and we just so happen to deliver the internet, but it's more than that. And so, like in the case of perhaps the commercial market, where we're doing really well nationally, there's a whole lot of products, and I don't want to overwhelm you guys with a whole lot of industry talk, but software-defined wide area networks and managed local area networks and hosted firewalls and cloud-hosted PBXs and such like. That's probably our core business in terms of enabling businesses at a digital level. Yeah, but look, the reason they choose us, anyone can produce these products and take them to market. What sets us apart is that service and support that comes with it.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. And I was talking, obviously we were talking before we pressed record about your awesome TV ad and social media ad, which I'll have to link in the caption in the notes, because I think it kind of sums up the spirit of Now and sort of the service element and how we're all just everyday people, but we deserve the best. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Yeah. It's like, well, no, for sure. But I just wanted to ask you, Hamish, what's your purpose? What motivates you every day? Is it aligned to what we were just talking about?
Oh yeah, God. That's a really hard question, but then not in some respects because I love people, and so I get like a huge amount of joy and satisfaction out of, I guess, enriching the lives of others, and I feel like, and whether it's our staff or our partners and suppliers or our customers, I just think we're in a really privileged position, not only as leaders, but just as a business, to be able to, I guess, I love the idea that people are better off for having now in their lives. So yeah, I think that's where I get my greatest joy is people, I guess, being enriched for perhaps either having now or me in their lives. And nothing gives me greater joy than seeing staff also grow and develop and realise their full potential. And it's amazing. I think as people, we lack I guess a lot of self-belief, and I think if you wrap people and surround them with belief and confidence, the sky's the limit.
That's so inspiring. Really appreciate that answer. It's really, inspiring. What's been a challenge in the journey, and what have you then learned from those challenges? Starting with leading, so I'm sure there's been a few knocks along the way.
Yeah, it's actually been 10 years of highs and lows, Bryar.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and it was interesting actually because before this, I kind of wrote a list of the sort of challenges, and I was sort of going, like, I think one thing here in terms of, and if I sort of talk about some of the key learnings, is you've got to hold true to what you believe in your vision, I think is a really key thing. The other thing is you've got to look after yourself on this journey. And quite often it's too easy to not look after yourself. And a business, like any business, asks a lot of, I guess, the principal owner and the CE. And so you've got to, and it's probably one of the biggest things I took from the Icehouse OMP, to be quite honest, was look after yourself. And that was where I got introduced to the concept of meditation and things like that. I think the other thing is that being really careful to not lose your sense of self and just remaining authentic. And I think I've learned business is about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's also about being comfortable with having really uncomfortable conversations, because the consequences of not having those conversations can be really dire for people. And that's probably one of the biggest learnings I've had and worked at, is just becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable and being comfortable with having those uncomfortable conversations. The other thing I'd have to say is I think sometimes we fall victim to overthinking things and don't trust our gut enough. And I'm not saying being cavalier, but I think we need to trust our guts more in business. And I think, it's too easy to try and go into that sort of rationalisation place when no amount of rationalisation is going to work in terms of what your gut's telling you to do. It's kind of some interesting things that I wrote down, but
I can't believe we're only 10 minutes in and you're dropping that amount of gold. That's very, very amazing advice. And you can tell from, like you said, 10 years of being in business.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, I think surrounding yourself with, and it sounds so cliche, with really good people. But I think the other thing I've come to really appreciate in the last few years is being quite deliberate about giving myself space. And, you know, you can end up being a busy fool in a business. And, you know, the greatest amount of value I add to this business is when I'm out surfing or fishing or just being away from it. And I think, and it's too easy to fall into that old-fashioned work ethic of going, I've got to slave away and I'm not working unless I'm in the office. But no, it never goes away. And you're always thinking about it. So, yeah, I think giving yourself space is good for yourself personally, but I think you add a lot of value to the business. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hamish, for sharing that. Absolutely brilliant. I'd love to hear what's been a highlight of the journey and how you celebrate success. It sounds like you've had some time of thinking about this in the past and making sure you celebrate those wins.
Yeah, it's so I don't know if we've always been good at celebrating success, and look, with the encouragement of my leadership team, we've been putting a lot more focus on it over perhaps the last 2 to 3 years. We've always been about, right, get this done, move on to the next thing. And so I think we are getting better at celebrating success. And, you know, we had our second annual People of Now Awards this year, which is celebrating the people of now and as voted by their colleagues. And ultimately, those awards are all about, I guess they ultimately come back to our company's values. And who's, I guess, living and breathing and demonstrating their commitment to the values the most. The other thing we're really got a lot better at is just, you know, every Friday we have a company update, and we're always doing shout outs and recognising people just week in and week out. So,
very cool.
Yeah, it's too easy not to celebrate successes and acknowledge people. And so we're trying to really, I guess, embrace that, yeah, as I say, weekly.
Yeah, it's so important. And I hear in a lot of these podcasts, you know, when I ask that question, how do you celebrate success? It's like, oh, I've been so guilty, just going, high five, move on to the next thing. But, you know, I know it's part of it. It's part of being a business owner and charging ahead for what, you know, the bigger mission is. But I think every owner wants to celebrate success and just slow down a bit and mark those little milestones along the way, because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, the journey itself, which is quite cool. Yeah, I love that and really encouraged by your answers, Hamish, so thank you. Wanted to sort of turn a bit to your Icehouse experience and ask when and how you heard of the Icehouse and the Owner Manager Programme.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine did the Icehouse, you know, 2 or 3 years prior to me going, and he really encouraged me to consider doing it. And I fell into that trap where just periodically over probably 12, 15 months, he'd say, so have you given any thought to the Icehouse? I guess he could see that I would benefit from it. And he just said, the sooner you do it, the better. And look, I was coming up with every excuse under the sun in my own mind as to why I wouldn't do it. And he you know, just said, Hamish, you can't afford not to do this. You've got to do it. So yeah, it was kind of like with an almighty push. And I just got so much out of it. It was, yeah, it can be a little bit lonely, and even though I have a board, you know, it's still very lonely. And when you actually, you know, possibly one of the biggest things I got out of it, among a number of things, is just that kind of collegiality that comes with actually recognising that actually we're all the same to a greater extent. And so I guess sort of realising that was quite liberating. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. What were some of those reasons that held you back? I'm sure a few other business owners are feeling the same things.
Money. Money was one. And so that was like a convenient excuse. But look, you know, it was kind of between bankers and, you know, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise and some key suppliers. It was like pretty much. It was paid for. Everyone had a vested interest in our success. I think, as I mentioned, probably the biggest one was my perception that I just didn't have the time. But then I realised, and stepping out every month, it was just like, it was just a real luxury. I think, I'd come back and interact with the business differently, and yeah, although it was work, it was also, I guess, invigorating. Yeah. So, but yeah, probably money and time were the two things. It was certainly, I'd heard great things, and I'd spoken to other people as well, and that's, I guess, echoed my good friends, I guess, sentiments. So, yeah, probably that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and obviously something we hear often. So it's kind of nice to hear from the inside of spent the money, spent the time, and felt like it was a worthwhile experience for sure. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like asking this question for those that are in a region like yourself. I'm here based in Tauranga now, so it's more front of mind from my move from Auckland. But I wanted to ask if you had any concerns that the Icehouse would sort of understand the differences between business in the major centres like Auckland versus the regions, like Hawke's Bay, where you're based.
Yeah. It never really crossed my mind, to be quite honest. And I certainly wasn't treated in any other way. And look, I'm hugely proud of my provincial roots, and we operate at a national level. We're a nationwide company. It was. Look, to be quite honest, if anything, the people from larger centres envied the fact that I was running a business from provincial New Zealand.
Yeah. You're like, take me to Hawke's Bay, I'm going to go there for sure. Yeah, no, that's really, really, really encouraging, really good to hear. Just want to unpack a little bit more. Is there anything that you implemented specifically into your business and your lifestyle since doing the program?
Can you say that again, Brian?
Yeah, of course, no worries. Was there anything you implemented into your business and lifestyle since doing the program?
Yeah, where do I start? Yeah, massively. I think, one of the big things that I've already touched on was looking after myself. And look, have I always done justice to that? No. But an awareness of my significance without sounding or coming across as self-important, and the dependency of the staff and investors and things like that made me take looking after myself a lot more seriously. So that was one big thing. The other thing, I did suffer a little bit, I think, from this whole imposter syndrome, and that seems to be spoken about a lot more. I'd never know what the hell it was until I went to the Icehouse, and it is something that you do struggle with, I think, as a business owner in New Zealand, and you end up holding pretty privileged position as a leader of people, and the roles that we played in supporting our communities and things like that. And I used to, and still do, have these almost an out of body experience of going, who the hell are you to be in this position? But I think I've come to accept that, I think I've earned the right, and just play to the position. Yeah, it's the other thing would be around the people aspect, and we know we're only as good as our people, but I think I came away with a greater appreciation of that, and we are a people-centric business. And I think probably one of the biggest things was a resolve that's gone on to this day in terms of ensuring that I'm surrounding myself with really, really good people, that they're surrounding themselves with really, really good people, and making sure that I'm not getting in the way of constraining our potential and growth. So I guess to some extent, when you start a business like this, you end up in the early days with all roads leading to you, and you become a bit of a control freak, and learning to let go, and having the people around you that I guess give you that confidence to let go is a key to unconstrained growth. Yeah,
that's such great advice, and I hear that from many owners actually, like the need to hire well and then trust the team that you've hired to do the job, and what that allows you then to do as a director and an owner, to bring that vision and it is very important. So, but easier said than done. So I like that piece of advice you brought. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's many questions I can ask, but I want to go back to that imposter syndrome for a moment, because again, it comes up a lot, and I think every owner thinks that maybe they're the only ones that that have felt it before, but I think all of us have to some extent. Is there anything practical that's helped you overcome that imposter syndrome?
You know what? Meditation, and I do. I got introduced, as I say, to the concept of meditation at the Icehouse, and I kind of dabbled in it in one way or another over the years, I guess it's not an orthodox form of meditation in terms of what I've been taught, but I do have that way of resetting myself periodically, either throughout the day or between days or whatever it may be. And I think that has helped a little bit with imposter syndrome. That's probably the only thing that I can single out. That's helped with that.
It really is a daily decision for many to go, you know what, no, I deserve to be here, and I'm not an imposter, and whatever it takes to take their mental game to that next level. Meditation is one of those key elements. So that's really great to hear.
Well, because I think it is about owning it, and sometimes we are reluctant to own it. There's been times there where I've looked at the big boys' shoes and went, "Come on, Hamish, they're yours, own them." And that's what people want from you as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's really great. You touched a lot on the people side of things, which is really encouraging, because, like you said, it's all about the people, and people make up a business. A big part of that is this word culture. What does culture mean to you as an owner? How have you kept culture, especially during the last couple of years?
Wow, golly, it's culture. What I think I've learned at Icehouse, actually, that culture eats strategy for lunch, and it probably didn't mean anything to me. But as time went on, I came to fully appreciate that. What does a culture mean to me? I heard someone describe culture once as it's how we do things around here, and I've heard lots of different definitions of culture, but I think that's the one that probably sits most comfortably with me. And we talk about the now way in this organisation, but I think it is about how we do things here, how we engage with each other. I don't think, I'm really proud of our culture, but I don't think we're necessarily any pin-up sort of poster child, sort of, I guess, for culture. I think it's constantly work in progress. We do take culture really seriously, and we survey our staff every 12 weeks, with trying to get I guess, a probe on how people are feeling about things, and we probe on and develop, I guess, between surveys on various areas. One area that's probably testing us a little bit at the moment is the need for greater flexibility in terms of how people work. And, it's work has, COVID, I think, fast-tracked a trend that was already going on in terms of, we've talked about work no longer being a time and place for a number of years now, but it kind of fast-tracked us a decade. And as an organisation, we're trying to work out what flexibility means. We already run in a pretty high trust, flexible environment. And I'd like to think that time isn't the currency and people are judged by their contribution and output, but there are some roles that it kind of is about time. We're also aware that, that we've got a generation of people coming through, and I'm sounding old here, and I'm not that old, but that it requires mum and dad to be working now. To be able to service the mortgage and things like that. And so that's, there's no forgiveness at the household end. And so it does require, if you want to have a sustainable and productive relationship with that employee, it's got to be flexible. Someone's got to stay home with Johnny or attend the tabloid sports or the prize giving or whatever. So we are working through what flexibility means for our staff. Like, we're not necessarily going to be one of those businesses that go, oh yeah, here's the 4-day week. I don't know if that's about flexibility. I think it's about, look, work and life are becoming increasingly more integrated. And once upon a time we try and partition it and go, work's work and home life's home life. But I think people are wanting a form of integration to make it work. So we're kind of feeling our way on it. So culture is something. It's our people and having a high performing, I guess, highly engaged team is our number one strategy, and culture's cornerstone to that. And there's so many things. I don't think there's a silver bullet here. And as I say, we're feeling our way. The good thing about us is it's a conversation that's going on week in, week out with the team in terms of, what's going to work for everyone. Yeah.
And yeah, such a brilliant answer, because we've got to be real with the fact that this takes time to work out, what flexibility looks like for New Zealand businesses. And I think sometimes the discussion around flexibility can come from an employee perspective rather than the business owner themselves. And I think, well, okay, hold on, if I was a business owner, how would I be responding to this, this element of work?
Well, we do very much see it as a partnership with the team, and I guess it's, that whole employer-employee relationship is like a set of scales, and, if it's lopsided towards the employer, then the employee is going to feel resentful, and if it's lopsided towards the employee, and then the employer is going to feel resentful. And I think this isn't new in terms of employment relationships, and but yeah, I think as I say, I'm really proud of our culture, and I think we certainly have there's a real care factor that goes in our culture as it relates to each other and our customers, and we're still defining it. It's kind of, as I say, we kind of pick ideas from other organisations, but then we're not necessarily wedded to, this is the agile way or whatever. It's like, we'll take an aspect of agile and so on, and it becomes, this is the now way.
Very cool. And I think a really practical thing you mentioned was that, you're talking to your people, you're doing surveys, you're having one-on-one discussions, you're bringing it up. It's a daily conversation, and I think that's so important because sometimes a decision can be made that hasn't, been discussed with those that are working day in, day out in the business, and then that's where the tension comes. So I think that's a really great practical piece of advice.
Yeah, we do try and get all the staff to engage as much as you can in decision making. We've got 80 staff, and I kind of see the organisation made up of 80 leaders, and whether you actually have got someone reporting to you or not, it doesn't matter. You actually have influence, and no matter what you do in this organisation, and we try desperately to give everyone a voice. Very
inspiring. Thank you, Hamish. That's cool. So the last couple of questions, what's a piece of advice you'd give your younger self, or maybe a budding business owner or leader?
You know what? So I go back to, I always saw myself as going into business. And I always saw that there would be some value in going in and doing the corporate thing for a while. I think I hung around a little bit too long and got a little bit used to corporate salaries. And I think that having that corporate background exposed me to a huge amount and developed me no end. But I shouldn't have waited until I was 40 to do what I'm doing. And I had my first foray into business when I was 34 in terms of setting up the agency, and then I guess wanted to do something of a much larger scale, and that was going to be something much larger than myself. But I waited to 40 to do it. And I'm kind of going, if I was to speak to my younger self, don't wait a day over 30, just get on with it. And I think having a corporate background is of huge value. But don't lose sight of what your original vision is, because it gets harder. You get accustomed to a lifestyle, and you need to. I think you've got to get on with it. As I said, I've just been reading a book, 4,000 Weekends. Don't leave it too many weekends.
Yeah, man, that's so encouraging. Yeah, I'm sure a few listening will be inspired by that, Hamish, for sure. Don't wait a day over 30. That's good. What does the future look like for now? It sounds exciting, and I'd love to hear what excites you about your company.
I'm really excited about the future, and I feel like we're in a position now where we're 10 years old and we've genuinely earned that right to play where we're playing. And so, as an organisation, we're no longer the imposter. I think we're starting to own it. And I think we've got a greater sense of self as an organisation. We've gone through those awkward pubescent and teenage years, and I think I liken us to an organisation that's in its mid-20s and got a greater sense of who we are and where we're going. I think we have an incredibly strong resolve around the customer service ethos being the core DNA. We have reasonably ambitious growth plans. We have a financial plan that now takes us out to March 2028. I was just looking at staff count. By then, we will have a payroll of over 140, so going from 80 to 140. We'll have a business that's over 150% larger. And we'll have a much larger product set. We'll have Now Mobile. The staff are actually using Now Mobile as we speak, but we're not commercially launching it until July next year. But I'd like to think, Bryar, that there's greater household recognition of Now across New Zealand in 5 years' time. We're well known in Central, Lower North Island, and certainly in our own province, but you'd find it very hard to find more than 1 in 10 outside, certainly in Auckland, that have actually heard of now. So yeah, I would like to think that we continue to carve out this reputation for service, and continue to create a whole lot of jobs for provincial New Zealand. Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. And yeah, I love you even said at the start, your impact on the economy, yes, but the community, the local community, seeing people in jobs, supporting families, supporting people with their internet, and what that then empowers them to do in their day-to-day. It's very encouraging and exciting to see what the future of now has in store. So very, very cool.
Yeah, well, I think, I look at it and go, there's 80 positions or jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago in a place like Hawke's Bay, and we do also have a Christchurch centre as well, and we're just really proud of, I think, one of the things is creating jobs. Yeah, yeah,
it's so cool. And honestly, Hamish, this conversation has reminded me of Fresh Heart. I love the fact that sitting on Zoom having a conversation with a business owner is part of my job, and yeah, it's such an honour to be able to talk to you and just get some of that real practical advice from 10 years in business. I know for a fact that there'll be lots of gold snippets that we pull out of this and put it across our platforms to help inspire others too. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Brett. Thank you for the opportunity.